Chapter 4. Judd's New Friend. Judd awoke, head aching, to the sound of a crackling fire, and to the sight of a man at least as old as his father bending over him. But he couldn't be a man, Judd thought. He is shorter than me. "How you feeling, boy?" asked the dwarf, his voice gruff but gentle. "My head hurts," replied Judd, "but I think I'll be okay." "Who are you? And where am I?" "You got a good-sized lump on your forehead, boy. What's your name?" "I'm he began, but then he remembered his errand. "Where am I?" he demanded. "Now just hold your horses, boy. You're in a cave. This is my home, and it's a good little ways outside town. I found you this morning when I went out to pick blackberries for my hot cakes." "Minnikin's the name." "Don't talk to humans usually, but you being so small yourself and needing attention and all, well, I figured it wouldn't do no harm to see what I could do for you. Folks in town think us dwarves are all dead. Most of us are, too, ever since Blackguard unleashed his magic on us. Wasn't fair, I say, just wasn't fair. We were walloping that old pernicious a good one when it happened. Anyway, you wouldn't tell 'em about me in town, would you? If you did, they wouldn't believe you anyhow." "Oh, well, thank you very much, Mr. Minnikin, but I must be on my way," said Judd, propping himself up with his elbows. "Not so fast there, young fella," Minnikin said, placing a damp cloth on Judd's forehead. "You're in no condition to be going anywhere. You need some rest." "You don't understand," protested Judd urgently. "I've got to deliver this note." His voice faded. "Where's my envelope?" "Now don't kick up a fuss," said Minnikin. "It's over on the table. Fell out of your pocket when I was carrying you." The dwarf made his comments very matter-of-factly. "Won't do you no good anyhow. As I figure it, by the way things was going last week, the king's been captured long before now." Horror gripped Judd's heart. Could it be true? Was it really all over? "You're wrong!" Judd cried. "You're just making that up." "Got no reason to," said the dwarf quietly. "Well, I'm going anyway," Judd said hotly. "I can see you are," replied the dwarf, "but it's still almost a 2 days' journey to the castle from here. You sure can't go all the way on an empty stomach. A small lunch to take with you would help some. Just give me time to pack one while you have some of my blackberry hot cakes." Judd still felt uneasy about the delay, but he let the dwarf's reasoning and the demands of his stomach help him decide. The breakfast turned out to be rather enjoyable after all, and Minnikin was good company. The dwarf's stories of days gone by and of other worlds kept Judd captivated for hours. The morning slipped quietly by, unnoticed. At one point, Minnikin was relating a story about a king. "So, they decided that the only way to solve the matter was to take it to the king." "The king? Oh," Judd groaned. "Now I've done it. I've been sitting here listening half the day. Give me the letter. I'm leaving right now." Judd's face flushed red with guilt. He knew that if he hadn't been caught up with Minnikin's stories, he would have done exactly what he was supposed to do in the first place. He grabbed the letter and took off without a thank you or a goodbye. He even forgot the lunch that Minnikin had packed for him. Later, he deeply regretted that he had been rude to the little man who had fed him and doctored his head. He wished he could go back and say he was sorry. The path through the woods was much easier to follow in the daylight. It had narrowed from a road to a path right before Judd took that unfortunate spill the previous night. He ran as far as he was able, now carefully watching for fallen logs. Finally, he slowed to a brisk walk, panting heavily. He was about to resume his run when he thought he heard someone. He stopped to listen more carefully. It sounded like someone weeping. "Whoever it is must be far away," he thought, "because the sounds are so faint." He listened again and looked through the trees in all directions. But he saw no one. "Why don't you go ahead and kill me too?" he heard a small voice say. Then the crying began again. "Who said that?" asked Judd. "I did. Who do you think?" the voice answered. All Judd could see was a small squirrel over near the trunk of a nearby tree. The crying continued, and Judd was almost sure that it was the squirrel making the sounds. He took a few steps closer, and the squirrel looked up at him. "Go ahead, kill me," the squirrel said. "What?" asked Judd, still wondering whether he should believe what he was seeing. I said kill me. Go ahead and kill me, repeated the squirrel. It can't be, Judd said distantly. What can't be? Asked the squirrel bitterly. You mean that you didn't kill all of us this morning? Well, I was well hidden right where Mama told me. She didn't make it, and neither did anyone else. Without my family, there's just no point in living. I didn't kill anyone. I'm not even allowed to use a bow, said Judd in his own defense. It wasn't you, then? The squirrel asked, wiping the tears from his eyes. To me, all humans look alike. But squirrels can't talk, said the amazed Judd. Of course we can. So can any animal if it wants to, the squirrel answered. After the great flood, when men began eating us, we stopped talking. Just like that, I've been told. You're talking to me, said Judd. Well, that's only because I thought you were going to kill me anyway. I didn't think it would make any difference. No, I suppose if you thought you were going to die, you wouldn't care who knew you talked, said Judd. I guess we're both in a fix. You have no family, and well, at least I brought on my own troubles. I've wasted the whole night and half of the morning. I may be too late by now. Too late for what? Asked the squirrel. To get a message to the king, answered Judd. You see, we are an army of children who are going to help Altura win this war once and for all. Only the king doesn't know it yet. That's what I have to go and tell him. Oh, said the squirrel. Then we're wasting time talking. Let's go. What do you mean, let's? Judd wanted to know. Well, I'm on my own, and you're on your own, said the squirrel. Two are better than one, aren't they? He cocked his head to one side and looked up at Judd with bright, beady eyes. Yes, but Judd didn't want to hurt the little guy's feelings. Jeremy is pretty picky about who is on our side. Everyone has to take an oath that they will really be true to the king no matter what. If it'll keep me alive, I might as well side with you humans, said the squirrel, forgetting that just a few minutes ago he had no reason to live. The enemy is human too, at least mostly human, I think, said Judd. Besides, you can't just do it to save your own hide. Otherwise, you're just as selfish as a Terp. You have to do it because it is the right thing to do. Well, I see what you mean, said the squirrel, resting his chin on one paw thoughtfully. Judd continued. But King Isidore is such a wise and loving king that Jeremy and Domarice and me and a whole bunch of other children are going to go and help him. It's not just a matter of staying alive. Why, some of us might get hurt or even die. Wow, he must be a great king if you're willing to do all that for him. Sure he is, said Judd. Listen, why don't you come along and meet him for yourself? You can be in our army and be a soldier too. Well, I don't know, said the squirrel. I'm not much of a fighter. Oh, don't worry about that, said Judd. If Jeremy can't find a job for you, I'm sure the king will. All right, then. I'm on your side for keeps. But I just hope this king of yours is just like you, said the squirrel. A little embarrassed, he added. We'd better get going, then. Quickly, he scampered off through the trees. Hey, where are you going? Judd called after him. To the castle. Where else? He answered. Come on. I thought this path led to the castle, said Judd. Maybe it does, but that's not the way I go. Have you ever been there before? Judd asked. Sure, haven't you? No. Then we'd better go my way, said the squirrel. Listen, hey, what's your name anyway? Plucky. Listen, Plucky, maybe you'd better ride on my shoulder. I'll have a hard time following you. All right. I'll direct and you do the walking, said Plucky. Off they went, Plucky's tiny voice shouting directions in Judd's ear. They quickly discovered that there are some places a squirrel can go that a boy can't. After several slight detours, Plucky got them back on course. As for Judd, he was sure he couldn't find his way back to the main path if his life depended on it. Before long, they came to a clearing. The forest loomed behind them on the left and right, but straight ahead was a cliff. Judd looked up. It was much too high for him to climb, and Plucky had ceased giving directions. "Oh, no!" he exclaimed. "Now we're lost. What have you done, Plucky?"